KTN News.
This is KTN News.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Express. Now, Machakos Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua has officially announced his 2022 presidential bid. Mutua, who is among governors serving their last term, says he has answers to Kenya's poverty, underdevelopment, corruption and tribalism that has made the future become bleak for the country's majority youthful population. He spoke at the Dr. Alfred Mutua Logistics Center in Lolongo, Machakos County.
Of 2022, I, your son, your brother, one of you, Alfred Mutua, will vie to be the next president of the Republic of Kenya, so as to return Kenya to the railway tracks of where we were meant to be after independence. 60 years after independence, the dream of a prosperous Kenya, where no one is left behind, where hard work is rewarded fairly and properly, and where dreams come true, is still an illusion. Dondoka juu mambo ni fresh na Mutua. Wakifunga tutafungua, wakipanga tutapangua. Sasa extravaganza ni ya fresh, mambo ni fresh na Mutua.
Interesting, right there. That speech was given a few days ago by Governor Alfred Mutua, who's joining us via Zoom from Machakos. Welcome to the show, Governor Mutua.
Asante sana, I'm very glad to be here.
Okay, so let's just get into it. You talked about a place where that would be ideal after independence. There was somewhere in your mind, somewhere where we could have been. Where do you feel the rain started beating Kenya?
Well, it's just the reality. You see, for example, when you look at the international circle, you look at countries like Singapore, South Korea, Malaysia, Thailand, some of the nations of the world. When we gained our independence, they were actually at par with us. Some of them with their GDPs and GNPs are slightly lower than others.
Yes.
Then the reality that hits us is that we have more resources in terms of mineral resources, natural resources, human capital than some of these countries. Now, 60 years later, where we are today, you look at these nations, they are now considered the tech economies, they are considered to be in the second world, they are doing much better. South Korea is manufacturing phones called Samsung, TVs called Samsung, they have cars called Hyundai. Singapore, which was in a position in the 1970s to receive money from us, is now in a position to lend us money. And you look at some of these nations, I mean, Malaysia is gives us scholarships for our children.
For sure.
So you have to ask yourselves, where did we go wrong? These are countries with similar populations. These are countries with fewer mineral resources than we do. So what happened to our system? What did we do wrong? And so when I analyze our independence, and I say the leaders that have been there have done their bit, but maybe the methodology that we've been using for development, the methodology that we've been using to pick our leaders is flawed, because we are not attaining the success we're supposed to be to the levels to be at. You look at the high unemployment rates today, where people are just confused. COVID exposed our underbelly. It shows that our economy is very weak.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Now,
and you look at the infrastructure development, the lack of it. So basically, if we just compare ourselves to those we started with,
yes,
we've been left way behind.
It is
despite
true.
the fact that even up to today, we have more than them in terms of resources.
And even we look at issues such as housing projects. There are countries that borrowed from Kenya, implemented and took off and took flight.
Yes.
But one would argue that our problems might be unique to us, and therefore,
team led by Julius Nyerere and others, they implemented their programs. You go to Malaysia now, they're selling us those panels that you see people now building houses with, the new panels being adopted. Well, those were our ideas. Those were Kenyan ideas. So why did others take them, implement them, make a lot of money, create massive employment for their youth? And here we are every day being fed politics of poverty, with leaders who are just aligning us in tribal lines. And then we think that all we need to do is to pray to God to help us. God is even astounded by Kenyans.
Okay.
Mungu amepigwa na bumbuazi. Anatuangalia, anasema Kenya nimewapatia good weather. I've given you the national parks. I've given you coal. I've given you gold. I've given you the minerals. I've given you a beautiful country. I've given you brains, education. Then you're still lagging behind. Why? because of wrong politics.
So what is the right politics that Alfred Mutua is going to bring on board?
Sorry, come again?
What form of good politics can Kenyans expect from you so that they can vote for you that will be different from your, what we would term as people who have tried and made a shot at it and failed, as you put it?
What you're going to do is that I'm going to transform this country from being a country of just a few million billionaires and massively millionaires who are poor. We need to understand that we need a leader who is economic focused, a leader who is focused towards development. At the end of the day, it's about making more money into the pockets, and it's about development. Let me give you a scenario. Yeah. When President Obama came here to this country, I mean, we shut down everything. Why? Not just because he comes from the US, which is a big country. I mean, Canada is just as big in terms of width. I mean, in terms of population, Nigeria has more. Why? It's because the United States is a rich country. People respect you when you're rich because that's all it is. In the American Constitution, they talk about the pursuit of happiness. You pursue happiness when you're living a comfortable life, when you can walk around at midnight without fear of your wife or child being raped or yourself being raped as a woman, when you can actually work hard and your dreams come true, when it's a land of opportunities. So what I want to return Kenya is, that's why I say that we need to reset the button,
yes,
is to have a leader like myself who understands both the national government, the challenges of the national governments, where we made all the mistakes. We've got all these session papers. We've got all these research done. We've got all these recommendations that are just lying somewhere accumulating dust. Okay. We just need to implement them. I understand how the national government works. I understand the cartels. And then I also understand the county governments, because devolution is here to stay. You need a leader who's actually served in both. And now I understand the county governments, I understand the challenges of the governors, I understand the challenges that people face at the grassroots. So combining those, plus my experience and my knowledge on economics, especially consumer-led economics, whereby you make sure there's enough money in circulation so that you lift the poor to a middle class, so the rich also will even make more money, but they are not just making money by themselves. The rich will make money, but also the poor will also be making money. Okay. Then we become a better balanced country. Right now, tuko namna hii. You know, it's tilted. We need to balance the nation.
Okay.
And we need a leader who is focused like myself.
Okay, let's get into the how, because we've had one of our regular guests here, former Mungi Central Member of Parliament, Joe Mutambu, really shocked at your promise of the number of jobs you would create in a span of 3 years. He said that is an impossibility. You might be lying to the innocent people of this country. What is your response to that? And at the same time, how do you intend to create said jobs?
There are two types of people. There are people who actually are focused in achieving great things, and there are people who think things are an impossibility. If you look at many people in this country, many of these Waheshimiwas, they go abroad. They go abroad, they see good roads, they see good railway systems, they see good hotels, they see people with every electricity. Then they come back here, they say, hey, hisi hatuwezi, hiyo ni wazungu ndio wanaweza. So I'm not going to reply to simple minds that are afraid to actually challenge. We will never get ahead because someone once said that your legs will only take you as far as your mind can go. So if some Waheshimiwas think it is impossible to them. That's why they should not even dare ask to be president, because they're not able to. I can do it because others have been able to do it in the world. And I know the formula. For example, let's talk about employment.
Yes.
The biggest challenge we have in our country right now is that the youth are stuck in a cycle. The bread is not big enough. You look at, for example, we are fighting for the same number of jobs. Jobs are not expanding. We are churning out youth. Jobs are not. So the first thing you need to do is first grow the economy, lower the tax break so that business people can actually expand and hire more people. Let's increase the bread. Let's increase the ugali on the table. We need to massively really remove bureaucracy in our country. When you remove bureaucracy in our country, you bring in more investors very quickly. These investors, within a month or 2 months, start construction, start investing. And when you do that, what do? You actually create employment. So those are some of the simple things that you do. But majority of jobs will come from a very key place. All over the world, jobs are created by the small and medium enterprises, the SMEs.
Yes.
These are the people who actually create jobs. Now we've got papers, we've got documents lying, bills that have been passed by Parliament that have not been enacted, that are supposed to make it easier with tax breaks and others to expand and funding for our small medium enterprises. I would go there. By just empowering the SMEs, by removing government bureaucracy, we'll create 2 million jobs within 1 year.
Yes.
Very easy. But it's been done before. Croatia did it before. They have done it before all over the world. Brazil did it before.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about things that are miraculous that cannot be done. South Africa also did it under Mandela. So these are things that can be done very quickly. The SMEs in Kenya are ready. They just need a working environment.
Yeah.
So those ones creation. Then now you get this consumer-led economics. What we call pouring money into the economy. You have to understand the fiscal responsibility. You have to understand micro and macroeconomics, and you have to remove the bureaucracy in terms of money flow. Right now, the CBK has put very stringent rules that make it impossible for money to flow, one, and two, impossible for people to access credit. When I worked for President Mwai Kibaki, we were pushing for access to credit. I can say very proudly, with Ambassador Mudaura, we came up with the concept, with the idea of the youth ministry and the youth fund. Why? Because we wanted access to credit, especially to our young people, so they may be able to access money. Nowadays, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Let's say, like myself, you grew up where I grew up in Kawangware, in Kibera and Kawangware, in a wooden shack, and you want to start a business, like I started when I was 19, and you go to a bank, you want to access credit to be able to do something. First of all, they ask you to put 20% down. I mean, you want 1 million shillings, 20% down, it will never happen. You don't have that amount of money. You know what I mean? They say it's about the risk factor, but it can be done. You have to have a system where you able somebody to grow. Even if you don't give them the money directly, you can fund their projects and they go. The next thing they ask you to bring a form of surety, title deed. Here you are, your father, your mother do not even own a piece of land.
Yes.
Where are you going to get that title to bring? So everything in this country is working against the youth. The bureaucracy is there to support the ones who have. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and that's why people steal to get to that place so they can actually make more money.
Let's talk about some of
I thought through all these things about employment and all the things that I talked about that I will do.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the things you have mentioned earlier on. You talked about their reports lying about the need implementation, their bills and whatnot, than the things standing in between a better life for the 190 is if these things are implemented. Let's talk about devolution. What is your take on its implementation, the challenges that have been made bare because of COVID-19, and how you intend to help bridge that gap? Because as we are, while devolution is still, it seems to be, it's still a process that has not fully been actualized.
I was there during the process of writing of the Constitution. I participated a lot, in the background as we worked through to advise President Mwai Kibaki about the Constitution. The Constitution figured out that the best way to actually take care of the basics, there's what is called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When you study Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they talk about the basic here: food, shelter, security. The bottom end that allows you now to get that type of prosperity, where you get all the way to what they call self-actualization. Now, devolution is supposed to take care of those things at the ground, the movement that allows you to access your food security and all those. And so that is what happened, healthcare and all that. So devolution is very important. Look at what has happened in counties. People will tell you that roads that never been graded have been graded. Culverts have been put. Let's take healthcare, for example. Let me use Machakos as an example. Yeah. When I got into Machakos, I could smell the maternity 200 meters away. It was smelling the placentas. The hospital was dirty. Doctors were not coming to work. Nurses were not motivated. Everything was being run from Nairobi. You know what I mean? So when I got in, I decided I'm going to transform Machakos health facilities to be like private facilities, because I was on the ground. First thing I did was I realized that we did not have ambulances. Our mothers are dying on the streets, being ferried on wheelbarrows, were dying waiting for matatus. Our fathers were dying at night, our children, because there are no transport vehicles taking them to hospital. Very primitive, very, very primitive, after so many years of independence. So when we were given money, 140 million to buy luxury cars, I decided not to. I bought second-hand cars for that 5 million. 105, I added some money, I bought ambulances. Today, Machakos is the only county in this country whereby you can call an ambulance from each and every corner of Machakos and it gets to you in less than 10 minutes. Mostly, it's an average of 3 to 5 minutes. We even have motorcycle ambulances that have medicine that people can go up to the hills if the roads have been washed up, because it's a matter of saving lives. We used to have kids called Mwanzea, Zelani. Now they are not there because there are no more kids being born by the roads of by the sides of the road. So when I transform Machakos healthcare, that is what the revolution is supposed to be. I have built a Machakos Cancer Center, which is treating people free of charge. Machakos, we are part of that UHC program. We treat you free of charge. You can come to Machakos. Now we do brain surgery. You can do any form of surgery. You can be admitted for even 10 years. You pay nothing in Machakos.
And so you can make this happen at a national level everywhere in the country?
Sorry?
Do you have faith that you can actually make this happen in every single county and make this something that is not a luxury but something that can be afforded to everyone?
It is very affordable. And how much more money do each country need to actually roll out UHC properly? It's just another 1 billion shillings. The first 2 years, we'll be there putting infrastructure, buying the equipment. The other 3 years, very, very clearly, you practice proper UHC. Healthcare should be free. Nobody decides to be sick. 99% of Kenyans, you fall sick. You don't know when you're going to fall sick. So it should not be a matter of deciding whether you're going to buy bread for your children or buy this for your children or actually go to hospital. It should be available. In Machakos, my people are enjoying UHC. We've got our challenges. We're still sorting them out, but I have figured out how to do it. And that's the leader you want, a leader who knows that it is about the people. It is not about zungukaring this country. It is not about, giving money to a few people here and there so that you can be looked to be a good person.
Yes.
It's about the masses.
Let's pause there for a minute.
That is what has defeated us in this country.
Yeah, you did talk about a leader that is not imprisoned by the system, but one who does exactly what you've just said. So how is that going to happen? Because a lot of people, politicians, get caught up by those who are in paying homage or paying back those who funded them, those who supported them, those who marshaled numbers from their background to support them. So how are you going to escape that particular trap?
No, at the end of the day, let me say this. I'm a business person myself. I understand how business operates.
Yeah.
I've been running my businesses. I've been quite successful in my businesses. I have a production company. Remember, I produced a series called Cobra Squad, Beba Beba. I am in the hotel industry. I've been in the hotel industry for a while. I'm in the aviation industry. I know what it means to make money. I know what it means to employ people personally and give them a life. But I also know that I can actually do business without being corrupt. And I expect anybody who is going to be working with me to do business the way Mutua does business. Yes. Clean business. Clean business. Just because you trade with the government doesn't mean that you have to be corrupt. And so the problem that many people face is that they get into government,
yes,
and they are not very clear in their minds. They are not very clear about how they are going to roll out things. For example, I have said that when I become president of this country, God willing, and with the votes of 190 and the support of 190, I'm going to make sure that I build roads in every constituency. Yes. I have practiced in Machakos.
Yes.
I have looked at the cost of doing business here. I remember one time the Japanese came here, and they wondered, they said we have a lot of money. Because the amount of money it takes us to build 1 kilometer is the same amount of money they build 10 kilometers in Japan, and they're richer than us.
Right.
So you look at, we've got a lot of inflated prices in this country. You've got a lot of people engineering techniques that are actually not at par with our income. Yes, it is good to build good roads, but look at the way they do it in Australia. Australia is much richer than us. Australia, they don't raise their roads up the way we do, whereby you have massive works being done in terms of earthwork that cost. They build their roads to the same level most of the time to the ground. You go to Dallas, Texas, unless there are overpasses, majority of the roads are at the same level. Why? Because they just tilt the road for 2 or 3 degrees, so water flows. It is much cheaper. So for us, when you raise that road, the way our engineers are designing them, it costs us 10 times more what it's costing an American who already has more money than us. So we'll need to change the methodology of doing things, and I'm going to build a new road, basically within the first 2 years in every constituency, because infrastructure is key. And we're going to build more roads and more railway lines to ensure that we catch up with the rest of the world. It is possible.
That is wonderful. One of our viewers here has a comment, and he's asking that he would like to ask you about the Kinka or Kinsa Zebra Road, and he says motorists have suffered. Could you speak to that project and why it seemingly has not been finished?
Yeah, I'm not going to start talking about small projects or projects in Machakos. They're important, but I don't want to be taken back to Machakos. I'm talking about national politics here, national things.
Okay.
There are many projects in this country. I mean, you go to Eldoret the other day, they are unfinished roads. You go to many places, they are unfinished roads in this country. It's because of the methodology that I want to change. we've got contractors who, the way the contract is written, you can actually not even arrest them. Because it's a civil. So I'm going to change some of these things so that when a contractor is given work, you do that work.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And we know that a lot of work has stopped because of COVID. So I'm not going to be pulled down to speaking about problems. There are challenges everywhere. You know what I mean? In this country. What is important is, where are we going? How are we going to implement it? Because the challenge in counties is we only get 15%, very little money, out of the trillions of shillings. 85% of the money remains in the national government.
Okay.
If I got more money as a governor, you can imagine some of these questions are being asked of roads.
Yes.
There's so many roads I want to build in Machakos. I've built over 200 kilometers of tarmac roads. I'd like to build about 500 to 1,000 kilometers, but I don't have the resources. It's all remaining in the national government.
Okay.
So devolution needs to be funded more. And as a president, I will fund devolution. Let power remain in the hands of the people in the grassroots, not just at the top.
Okay, so right now we are battling a pandemic, COVID-19, and at the same time you can see the drumbeat of politics can be heard. The campaign seems to have started. We're seeing rallies. What is your take on that? And given that you want to be a different kind of leader, how are you going to approach your politics to ensure that people are voting based on issues that you are and the deliverables that you have talked about, as opposed to slogans and personalities and the type of things that land us in hot water and we start regretting the way we voted a few years after?
I think the biggest challenge, and this we realized many years ago, is something called impunity.
Yeah.
Impunity by all circles, including our leaders. You cannot say, let us keep space. You cannot say, let us wear masks in public, let us wear masks, let us not do this. Then you go and stop somewhere where you know, by virtue of yourself being a public figure, when you stand there and you start speaking on a microphone, that people will all coalesce to listen to you. That is automatic, that is common sense. So when leaders do that, that is impunity. And if somebody is doing that as a leader and they attain a bigger office or they continue being leaders, that impunity will never end in our country.
Yes.
And our young people are looking at it and saying, Mabazu, Zudosi, they preach, they preach water, but they're drinking wine.
Yes.
And therein lies our problem. People come and preach against corruption, but they're the most corrupt. They're doing deals. And you can see, life is very consistent. The behavior of somebody who is actually defying rules as a leader, you know that person will defy other rules. Where is someone defying him? Kidogo. There's something called the broken window theory.
Yes.
The broken window theory says that if it is not actually the big things that matter, it is the small things. When, for example, a window is broken and you don't clean it, very quickly that area becomes a slum because it shows. In New York City, there was one time they had many issues in terms of crime. People are being mugged in the railway lines, women are being raped. And so a new police chief realized you don't need to go. What you need to solve is not the murders and all those things. Solve the problem of people who are disobeying the small rules at the train stations. People who are smoking when it says do not smoke. People who are jumping without pay and getting in. Because these people who are going to commit those big crimes are committing small crimes. If you are planning to go and rob the train, you're not going to obey a rule of do not smoke. You know what I mean? So life is very consistent. So if somebody is disobeying these COVID-19 rules, it is very clear their mentality, they will disobey all the other rules. They will be the massive corrupt people. They will be the ones turning ourselves back. They will be the ones killing the population. You know what I mean? It follows. It's very clear.
So they should
as
look at their
Kenyans, I want to
actions.
tell you, let us be careful. Let us not be hoodwinked for another 60 years by choosing the wrong leaders. It is time for us to be selfish. As a voter, you need to be selfish and ask yourself, what is it in there for me?
Yes.
Somebody said the other day said that we actually spend more time investigating and interrogating a housemaid than it would be a president.
Okay.
Mtu ambaye utamwandika achunge mtoto wako, unamwinvestigate umetoka wapi, unapata references, unapiga simu, unajua kwao, unajua kitambulisho. But somebody who is a president anakupatia shilingi 50-50 na ni corrupt ya mwisho, unamweka kuwa rais. And that person is going to actually control how your life will be for the next so many years. Whether you're going to be poor, whether your mother will die of a funny disease, whether there will be accidents because there are no roads, because of that person. And yet we take it casually. So I'm calling upon Kenyans, let us look at this position of presidency very seriously, and let us say that the time has come, yes, The others have served their time, but computer ya Kenya imehang. The Kenyan computer has frozen. It is time to push the reset button and to start anew with a new form of leadership.
Now, speaking of freezing and computers that have hung, the Senate seemingly has frozen as far as, the revenue allocation formula. What would you do, or what would your approach be, particularly when it comes to certain regions that are crying for these monies because they say they have historical injustices, they have been sidelined and therefore need to catch up, as opposed to those who are densely populated and feel that they're entitled to monies because they have a larger population to cater to? Where do you stand on this one?
I think it's very clear that the injustice that we have in the last 6 years, some places in this country have been left out. You go to some places, even in Machakos County, there are areas where people carry bodies of their loved ones on their shoulders for 5 kilometers because there are no roads. I have been building roads in places where people have never seen roads. I'm putting piped water where kids have never seen a pipe in their lives. Well, because I've dug over 500 boreholes and piped over 400 kilometers, and I'm asking people, come to Machakos and see the miracle of Maendeleo Chap, that it is possible to serve people. Now, when it comes to this balance, when I'm president of this country, you have to do 2 things. The first one is to say, let us give money to people according to the need. You don't give money to people just because of that. You look at this. How much money does a county need to provide health services for X number of people? How much money does a county need? Let's have that form of equality and equity. But then we realize some counties have been left behind, then we can put money from the consolidated fund. We can have money put aside as an affirmative action money to be put to these counties to be told, you've got 5 years to catch up, or 10 years to build all these roads to catch up with the rest of the counties. And then you move on from there so that we have a balanced county, so that everybody wins. It's a win-win situation that brings a form of equity and also equality.
Okay, thank you very much. That is Governor Alfred Mutua talking about his presidential bid and some of the things he hopes to deliver to the people of Kenya. And of course, thank you so much for being a part of the show this morning. Good luck in your political endeavors.
Yes, and I want to say thank you very much, and I ask all your viewers and all your listeners across the country, please, I'm asking you for your support. Let us reset the Kenyan computer. It is possible. Inawezekana na itawezekana, and I'm going to be listening to wananchi. I'm not going to be holding those big rallies in the COVID era. I'll come to every county, I'll sit down with wananchi, and I'll ask you, for the first time in the history of this country, for you to tell me what you want me to do for you when I'm president. Let us change how politics is done. It is possible to transform this country and give money and more money to each person's possible pockets. I'm asking for your support, and God bless you. Mambo ni fresh na Mutua.
Okay, and on that note, we shall be taking a short break. When we come back, we shall talk about the education sector, where we are in the fight against COVID-19 and how we should be approaching a reopening of schools, given what the CS has told us in the recent days. Let's take a break. We'll come back with more for you.